A black Mercedes was speeding toward the boundaries of the village. The uneven, rocky road had been carved out through the mountains, and every 2 kilometers there was a slope. The driver drove with extreme caution. His face was as stern as the surrounding cliffs, while his eyes, in his attempt to remain composed, were growing bloodshot with intensity. Wearing a black shalwar kameez and Peshawari chappals on his feet, one wrist adorned with an expensive watch and the other with a black thread, his complexion glowed under the harsh sunlight. Even though the car's air conditioner was on, his forehead was damp with perspiration. When he entered the village boundaries, he saw a massive red brick mansion standing among the small and large houses of the area. From afar, he noticed many people gathered outside the mansion. When his car arrived, they moved aside to give him space, and he drove inside. The moment he stepped out of the car and entered, there was an uproar. His great father's body lay there, with his mother and sisters sitting by it, wailing and lamenting. Spotting him, his mother ran to him and clung to him, sobbing. Even as his mother and sisters wept and wailed, not a single tear fell from his eyes. He kissed his mother's head and placed his hand on his sisters' heads. Then, along with a few other villagers, he lifted his father's body and carried it away for burial. After the burial, he returned to the Durrah, where a few of his father's closest people were gathered. Sardar Sahib, what should we do now? I've heard that Sardar Sultan Muhammad has already sent his son, Darab, to the city. Zargham Ali Khan cast an absent-minded glance around at all of them. Send a message to Sardar Allah, the High Chieftain, that the decision will be made in the Jirga, and also tell Sultan Muhammad to bring his son to the Jirga tomorrow. They all nodded in agreement, slung their rifles over their shoulders, and left. Nur Khan, you stay here. Upon hearing his voice, Nur Khan stepped to one side and stood respectfully. After a long silence, Zargham's voice finally broke through. Nur Khan, tell me in detail, what exactly happened there? Sardar, a local villager's daughter's father, came and informed us that Darab Khan and some of his friends had kidnapped her, taken her to their dera, and assaulted her. On that man's complaint, a jirga was convened. I accompanied Sardar from here. In the panchayat, Sardar Allah heard both sides and decided that Darab Khan should be imprisoned. At that, our Sardar said he should be stoned to death instead. This angered Sultan Muhammad, and heated words were exchanged between him and our Sardar. The Jirga ended up siding with our Sardar's verdict, but suddenly Darab Khan and his men pulled out guns, and Darab Khan shot Sardar in the chest. Firing into the air, they all fled. Everyone from the Jirga was there except Sardar Zargham Ali Khan, who hadn't arrived yet. Right then, from one side, we saw a black Mercedes kicking up dust and coming to a stop near the Jirga. Out of it stepped Sardar Zargham Ali Khan, dressed in a white shalwar kameez with chappals on his feet. Many girls in the region adored him, but he never laid eyes on anyone. He sat down on a chair near Sardar Ali Salman Pasha. He glanced briefly at the audience sitting before him. Then his gaze settled on Zainab Sultan, standing off to Sultan Muhammad's side. She was nonchalantly fastening and unfastening the watch on her wrist. Sardar Zargham Ali Khan, you will now decide what your father's killer deserves. At Sardar Ali Salman Pasha's words, Zargham Ali Khan cast a look at Darab Sultan, standing with his head bowed before him, and then glanced back at the Sardar Allah. I want blood money, he announced, and in that blood money, I want Zainab Sultan. Zainab, who was standing there with a headscarf, tears in her eyes, looked at Zargham Ali Khan, whose face was set in stony resolve. She shook her head in rejection, but before she could speak, Sultan Muhammad stood up. I accept, he said. Zainab, struck dumb, stared at the two men, one her father by relation, the other Zargham Ali Khan, whose hatred was now forging an even stronger link. She turned toward her mother, who, for the love of her son, also turned away her gaze. In one last flicker of hope, she glanced again at Zargham Ali Khan, who met her tear-filled eyes as if about to say something. He opened his mouth, then seemingly changed his mind, pressing his lips shut. Zainab's final hope was extinguished. I want our nikah to take place here in this jirga, he said. Sultan Muhammad seemed hesitant, but having given his word, he did not back down. Hastily, a Malvi was called in. Zainab was traded for her brother's life. Right there, Zainab Sultan became Zainab Zargham Ali Khan. As soon as the Nika was done, Zargham stood up, gave Zainab a fleeting glance, then walked over to Darab Khan and stood right beside him. And then something happened that no one had expected. Everyone just saw Darab Khan collapsing onto the ground, while all eyes turned to the pistol in Zargham Ali Khan's hand, which had just fired 6 shots. 6 bullets lodged into Darab Khan's chest. Everyone stood in shock. Sultan Muhammad rushed forward to grab Zargham Ali Khan by the collar, but Zargham quickly seized his wrists. In a forceful, clipped tone, Zargham said, "Sultan Muhammad Khan, I am Sardar Zargham Ali Khan. I make my own decisions. You gave me your daughter as blood money, and there was still another punishment your son deserved, one my father and the Jirga had already decided." Releasing Sultan Muhammad's hands, he glanced one last time at Zainab Sultan and walked out. Zainab was left at her brother's body, weeping. A storm raged in Sultan Muhammad's mansion. Her mother was wailing, her younger brother watching tearfully as she and their mother sobbed. Zainab was dumbfounded that her nikah had been performed with such a heartless man. He hadn't hesitated even for a second before taking her brother's life. What would he do to her? She loathed him fiercely. As her father carried his son's coffin on his shoulder, she clung to her mother, bursting into tears. He returned to his mansion, where his mother, disheveled and distraught, stood in front of him. "Zargham, tell me, have you avenged your father's blood?" she demanded. He led her to her room, gently. "Mother, please rest." "No, Zargham. First tell me, did you avenge your father?" He knelt at her feet, placing his hands on her knees, and nodded. "What did you do?" She looked at her strong, grown son with hopeful eyes. "I've just returned after marrying Zainab Sultan," he said. His mother stared at him in shock, shoved his hands away from her knees. Then he sat beside her and wrapped an arm around her as he tapped his chest. "I fired all 6 bullets of my pistol into his Darab's chest. A person like that had no right to live in this world. AMU Jan, what did you think, that your son was a coward who'd just go and get married over his father's corpse? I want to punish our enemies twice over, so they'll lament both for their son and for their daughter. Did they think their son could violate someone else's honor and take another's life and get away with it? But Zargham, that girl isn't at fault. You shouldn't treat her like that." He fell silent. He could never truly disregard his mother's words. He loved his family more than anything in the world and would go. She asked pointedly, her eyes boring into his. He silently stared back at his mother, then stood and headed for the door. "Zargham, answer before you go. Your mother asked you something." He cast a pained look at her, as though to ask why she was acting so merciless, forcing him to say what he didn't wish to think about. "Zargham, why do you want to exact revenge on someone who doesn't even understand why? She's not clueless. AMU January. She's Faika Sultan's sister. She must be just like her. But you have sisters too." "Yes, I do, but my sisters aren't like Faika Sultan." She sat alone in the lounge. Neither Dardana Begum nor Safir was home, so she roamed freely, nibbling on some dried fruit while flipping TV channels. Suddenly, her gaze froze at the sight of a newscaster on screen. "Now we take you to Islamabad, where Pakistan's UNICEF Board of Directors South Asian head, ZK, is holding a press conference." On screen, wearing a black 3-piece suit and holding some files, he stepped forward with confident poise, greeted everyone, and took a seat. "Sir, we've heard you're resigning from your position," someone asked. Smiling, Zargham Ali Khan looked toward the direction of the question. "Yes, you've heard correctly. I'm resigning. Is there a specific reason?" "Due to personal issues, I can't continue." He spoke further, and Zainab Sultan stared wide-eyed, mouth parted in shock. She was both impressed and surprised. He looked handsome in his local attire, but here in modern dress, he appeared even more striking. Her phone rang. Without checking the caller ID, she answered. "Zaini, is it true? You married that Zargham Ali Khan? You have no idea how vile he is. You don't know what he did to me," came Faika Sultan's voice. Zainab pulled the phone away and glared at it, as though Faika stood before her. "API, Is that why you finally called me after all this time? My dear, father told me you married him, and I just couldn't contain myself. Oh, he didn't tell you he forced me into this marriage to save his son? Ziny, well, whatever happened, call him. Tell him to divorce you. Give him whatever demands he wants, but free yourself. With that, Faika abruptly ended the call. Left holding her phone, Zainab was pulled into a whirl of conflicting emotions. Should she call him or not? Hanging between yes and no, she paced her room until she finally took out the card on which large print read, Head of UNICEF Board of Directors for South Asia. Below was his number. With trembling hands, she saved the number and, after much indecision, dialed it. The phone rang once, twice, thrice. Then, that deep, resonant voice touched her ear. Hello. Her heart hammered so hard it felt ready to burst. She quickly hung up, tossing the phone onto the bed, as if he could still see her. A WhatsApp message came through. Opening it, she read, Zainab, I'm busy right now. I'll call you tonight. Staring at her phone, she sank onto the bed in a daze. Did he already have her number? She felt a jolt of fear. Maybe Faika was right. Deciding not to speak with him again, she pulled her sheet over her and tried to sleep. Because it was Zardom Ali Khan's last day at the office, he ended up staying late. Only as he was about to leave did he recall Zainab's earlier call. He'd had no chance to respond. Stepping outside, he tried her number. It rang, but no one answered. Checking the time, midnight, he assumed she might be asleep. He disconnected and pocketed his phone. He was unlocking his car when it rang again. Without checking, he picked up. At the first voice from the other end, his expression hardened, as though carved from stone. Why did you call me? He demanded, his voice rigid as a rock. You marry my sister, you lying scumbag, Faika raged. Yes, I did. And indeed, I learned from you how to be a liar, Miss Faika Sultan. He responded with biting sarcasm. You'll lose at this game you're playing. Give Zainab a divorce. Oh, the game's just begun. Wait and see what happens next. Forget everything that happened. I will. Don't worry, he said calmly, provoking her. She's my sister. She's also my wife now. Fine. Then we'll meet in court. We'll file for Kula. I'll ruin your so-called honor again. You'll remember who you picked a fight with. Okay, best of luck, Mrs. Faika Sultan. Zainab woke at 4 in the morning. She reached for her phone to check the time and saw missed calls from Zardom. Startled, she dialed him immediately. It rang 2 or 3 times before he picked up. Zardom's drowsy voice came through. Hello. Zainab, lips trembling, blurted out, I want a divorce from you. I hate you. You'd be better off letting me go. And who are you? He asked, as though ignoring her entire speech. What? How many women have you married? I'm Zainab Sultan. Oh, I see, he drawled casually. So you call me at this hour to say I should leave you alone? And if I don't, what will you do? She fell silent, biting her lip, not sure how to respond. Zainab Zardom Ali Khan, he began, I accepted you publicly before the entire village. You belong to me. Whenever I wish, I can bring you back to my home. But I'm giving you some time. Your brother's sins have earned you a punishment too. Yes, and I'll face your sister's sins too, she shot back instantly. Silence from his side. Apparently, he hadn't expected her to know anything about that. Yes, hers too, he said at last, voice chilling. Then he abruptly hung up. Seething, she flung her phone aside, carefully, mindful not to break it. She knew no one would buy her a new one if it broke. In a private hospital's surgical ward, a living corpse lay before him. Quietly, he approached the bed and sat on the bench next to it. Countless tubes were attached to her body. He gently took her hand. You know, I'm married now. We had the Nika. But you weren't there. I guess you just sleep all the time. You're always in slumber. Years have passed, and I'm still waiting for you to wake up. Clearly, you have no love for me. You'd have awakened if you did. A tear slid from her eye, rolling down toward her ear. He caught it with his fingertip. I know you can hear me. You're blackmailing me with these tears, but still you don't wake. He kissed her forehead and turned toward the exit. She was in deep sleep when someone shook her awake. She opened her eyes, trying to figure out what was happening. Then she saw Faika's face looming. Jolting upright, she tried to stifle a yawn with her hand. What are you doing here so early in the morning? Where's your dear husband? Forget that. Get ready. I'm here to pick you up. Pick me up? What? Just get dressed first. Tying her hair in a messy bun, Zainab disappeared into the washroom, emerging a short while later in a green shower camise with a large dupatta. She stood before the mirror, brushing her hair. Did you finish your article? Faika asked, looking for an opening to start conversation. No, why? The same reason as always. You and father, Zainab retorted. Well, you should accept your reality, Faika said blandly. Because these tyrants won't change their ways. You're growing more and more like father, but perhaps I can't be a part of this tale. Quickly changing the subject, Faika said, Anyway, let's go. I already got permission from Fupo. She took Zainab to meet a famous Islamabad barrister, Sharyar Fundi. Sir, we want to file a Kula case, Faika announced. Zainab stared in shock. Sister, what are you saying? Let's leave. I'm feeling claustrophobic, she insisted, and stepped out of Barrister Sharyar's chamber, leaving Faika behind. In her hurry, turning the corner, she collided with someone's chest. In reflex, the other person shoved her away, and both froze upon seeing each other. He was wearing a blue three-piece suit and sunglasses. It was him, Zek. Zainab, came Faika's voice, snapping Zainab back to reality. Noticing them, Faika rushed forward, pushing Zainab behind her as she confronted Zargam. He looked around, clearly wanting to avoid Faika, and tried to move past her. She grabbed his arm. Zargam shook her hand off in disgust. Is something wrong with you? Making a scene here? Times have changed. I know how to put people like you in their place. And keep your cursed face away from me. Otherwise, I won't hesitate to switch from Zargam Ali Khan to Zania Ali Khan's brother. With that threat, he turned to Zainab Sultan. So you're here today, but if I see you around these parts again, you'll be responsible for the consequences. Don't even think about Kula, he warned, pointing a finger before straightening an invisible crease on his coat and striding off. Hearing the name Zania, Faika froze. Sister, this is divine retribution. Stop worrying about me. If God wrote this for me, I'll face it. The fact is, you did wrong, and I won't file for divorce. I don't want that stigma, Zainab declared. Lost in deep thought, Faika said, All right, let's go home. He drove recklessly, anger boiling. Seeing Faika Sultan had dragged him back into the past. Babayani, really? Her excited voice rang in his memory. Yes, child, truly. I can't bear seeing you unhappy. What about AMU Jan? We'll convince her. That's my job. Really? You'll convince her? Yes, I already have. She flung her arms around Zargam Ali Khan's neck. My dear Lala. If ever she was very happy, she would call him Lala. Though older by 4 years, he seemed bigger and taller, so she used that term. Zania Ali Khan had just graduated, wanting to do further studies in Islamabad, but Zaira wanted her married off. Despite Zaira's resistance, Zania went to Islamabad to stay in a hostel, having received a scholarship. A month into university, when Zargam visited, she seemed anxious. Ipi, what's wrong? You look worried, he'd asked. Oh no, it's nothing. You're just imagining things, she'd tried to dodge. But he wouldn't let it go. Either you tell me, or I'm taking you home with me right now. He might be younger, but he was her brother, protective and firm. She hesitated, then clasped his hands. It's that Faika Sultan also studies here, and I'm afraid of her, she confessed, after carefully omitting many details. API, come on. Is she a witch or something? You're my brave sister. He teased, but she set her forehead against his shoulder, sighing. The only name that stuck in his mind was Faika Sultan, the person who frightened his sister. Zania kept the diary. By the time Zargam got hold of it, it was too late. On her first day, she was in class taking notes when Faika arrived with some friends. Zania's hands began to tremble, but summoning courage, she tried.